Hello, everyone. Welcome to Noisebridge. Tonight is our special International Women's Day 5 Minutes of Fame. How many of you have not been to Noisebridge before? Raise your hands. Cool. So let me tell you a bit about Noisebridge. We are a nonprofit hackerspace open to the public 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. every single day. We are funded entirely by the community. So it's you who come to Noisebridge who are responsible for Noisebridge being here and paying rent and all those things. If you think Noisebridge is cool and you can donate, please do. We have a Patreon. You can be a recurring donor. It's super good if you do that. It's the only way we can do events like this. We are also run entirely by the community. There's no staff or management or anything at Noisebridge. No one gets paid to work for Noisebridge. It's just you again. And the way that we do that is something called duocracy. So basically, if you think something should be done, go ahead and do it. As long as you follow the one rule of Noisebridge, be excellent to each other. So if you're going to make a change to the space, ask around, especially ask the people who are going to be impacted by the change. And if everyone's okay with it, go ahead. We also have a safe space policy. And what that means is we want everyone to be comfortable and welcome and feel welcome using the space. So any harassment or anything like that is not acceptable, okay? Especially in conversations and behavior towards people, unwanted attention, that sort of thing, not cool, okay? So if you are asked to stop, you should stop. And if you're asked to leave, please do so. Anyone can ask someone else to leave if they're feeling harassed or anything like that. And if you need assistance getting someone to leave, multiple people here will help you out. If you are willing to help people escort others to the door, please raise your hand. Cool, look around, those are the people you can ask. So, normally at Noisebridge, we do not allow people to take photographs of other people without asking first. And so we do have a photographer here tonight who would like to take pictures of the event. Is everyone okay with that? If you're not okay with being in a photograph, please raise your hand. Okay, so those two in the back, do not take photos of them. We are also going to be live streaming this event. We're also going to be live streaming the event. So if any of our speakers do not wish to be on camera, let me know beforehand. So raise your hand now if you don't want to be on camera, if you're a speaker. No, looks like everyone who's going to speak tonight is cool with being on camera. Awesome. So you didn't raise your hand, did you? I wasn't there. Okay. Do we know where the live stream is? YouTube, okay. Somewhere on YouTube. Cool, so it is after 8, we should probably get started. Bernice, you are our first speaker tonight. You will be talking about, Bernice will be talking about things you might not know. Things you might not know about Filipino maker and hacker women.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for coming to Noisebridge and listening to all of our talks. So, again, my name is Bernice, and I'm talking about things you might not know. Female Filipino makers and inventors. So, I decided to talk about this topic just because I don't know if a lot of people know about this. So I thought it's something unique and interesting. And if not a lot of people know it, then it's probably cool if I can spread this to the broader consciousness. So I grew up in the Philippines, and in school when they were teaching us about history and science, they taught us about these guys, which is really cool, like This guy invented the single chip graphic user interface accelerator. This guy invented erythromycin, which is basically like if you're allergic to penicillin, you use that. And this guy invented the video phone. But in school, they didn't talk about female inventors. Like, they're all dudes. And I kind of thought to myself, you know, like, it's not that I forgot this, because I keep thinking, oh, when I grow up, I want to be like Marie Curie or Ada Lovelace or something like that. I would have remembered something like that. And I don't know, like, why they didn't put anyone there, because, like, if you really think about it, anyone can invent. Doesn't matter if you're a boy or a girl or non-binary or anything like that. People invent stuff because they need stuff. So without further ado, here's basically, like, I thought I was just doing research about the different people. And full disclosure, I actually submitted the topic before I started doing research. That's why, because I thought, oh, they're gonna be in the internet somewhere. Thankfully, yes, I did find them in the internet. It's just a website that's in Tagalog, and thankfully I know how to read that. So here's a few of them. The first person is Magdalena Villaruz, and she invented or improved a lot of tools that people can use for agriculture. So this is her Wikipedia page. It says here that she made various inventions, like the turtle hand tractor and many other groundbreaking inventions. The reason why I brought this up is because I thought that is too on the nose. I feel like someone should get like a medal for this really great pun. So, yeah, so here it is. Yeah, cool. I'm glad you liked that joke. I'm glad it didn't go over your heads. So this is the first thing that she invented. She invented this when she was 38 years old or something. It's called a turtle hand tiller, just because I don't know if you know anything about planting rice, but you see this person here. When you plant rice, in the beginning, the rice needs to be submerged underwater. So you can't use like the regular tools that people use for like wheat or corn or anything like that. And the innovation that she made was she made this little thing here. It's hollow and it's filled with air so that the machine won't sink and you can still till the fields properly. So it helped out a lot of farmers who can't afford, like big machines or the water buffaloes that people would normally use. And so yeah, that was her big innovation. The next person is Carlita Rex Doran, and she made this thing called Siroca, and it's basically like, you know those, whenever you go to like buffets or anything like that, and there's like a little can under the food to keep it warm. That was apparently the original one. It came out in like 1980, and she founded her own company and invented a lot of other products based on like herbal remedies. So this was here to help people, because normally people would use like LPG or the liquid petroleum gas tanks, and those are expensive, those are very heavy, those are dangerous. So she thought, hey, there should be an easier way to do this, and therefore she invented that. The next person is Fe del Mundo. So she was the first woman admitted as a student of Harvard Medical School. I did not know that, and that's pretty cool. She invented a neonatal incubator designed for rural communities that don't get electricity very regularly. So this helped a lot of prematurely born babies survive. And she founded the first pediatric hospital in the Philippines. So she lived from November 27, 1911 to August 6, 2011. And even when she was in her 90s, she still kept her practice of medicine. And when she died, she was buried at this place called Libingan ng Mga Bayani. And basically, Libingan ng Mga Bayani is called the Tomb of the Heroes. Normally, it's reserved for people in the armed forces, like armies, or people who died during the war as soldiers, or presidents and things like that. But she's special, so she got buried here too. So that was really cool. So here's a bonus. I don't know if this counts because her parents are Filipino, but she's born in Canada. Anne Makosinski. I think she was on TV at some point, but like she invented a flashlight that was powered by using body heat, by using Peltier tiles. And this won her the 2013 Google Science Fair for the age 15 to 16 group category. And a few years after that, she made this thing called e-drink, which is a mug that converts heat from your drink, like if you have like hot coffee or something, into an electrical current to charge your phone. So I was looking at it and I'm like, oh, that's really cool, you know. And, what are Peltier tiles? These are apparently Peltier tiles. You can just buy them on like Amazon and eBay. And Peltier tiles use something called like the thermoelectric effect, which changes. Oh, okay. How do I go back? But anyway, yeah, the Peltier tiles just uses your heat, the heat like from your hand or something, to generate electricity. So she did that to help a lot of people in the rural areas that don't get electricity very regularly. And because of that, like they can use that as like little hand flashlights so that the children can study even though it's nighttime and it's dark. So I just thought that was really cool. And you know, like even though it was like really hard to research about all these people, I'm glad that I finally got to make this talk, and I'm glad that I got to introduce them to people who are not from the Philippines, because you know I feel like anyone who invents something should get some kind of recognition for the work that they've done, and I just think that they're just really cool people in general. So that's the end. Thank you so much for listening to my talk. Do any of you have any questions? Cool, thank you.
All right, our next speaker is Sarai. All right, so our next talk is by Sarai, and she will be talking about low-rank matrix approximation.
Hi, I'm not really on theme. There's no there's theme, but yeah, not really International Women's Day theme, except for I'm a woman and this is a thing that I do. So, low-rank matrix approximation, it has some scary words in it. They're a little bit scary at first, but I want to assure you that they're really not that scary once you get to know them. So low rank is essentially referring to, low is small. Not too bad, right? Easy start. So low rank is saying we're talking about something small. We're saying that we have some kind of a small thing, small space. And approximation, we're all kind of reasonably, sort of, approximately familiar with what that means. That's really all there is to it. And then there's matrices. It's fine. Don't worry about it. Okay. So yeah, it's scary, but again, it may look scary, but it's really just a nice fluffy thing. See, she was scared of it, but then she became familiar with it. This is my cat. That's someone's butt. Things happen. Okay, so why would I want to use this? What is this thing? It's used for machine learning. It apparently is a form of machine learning, which was a giant surprise to me when I was like, holy shit, I do machine learning. It is used for recommender systems, suggestion systems, prediction systems, and apparently also synonyms. And that was a joke because those are all sort of synonyms. It's funny. But so synonyms is used for natural language processing. I haven't used it in that way. I've used it to build prediction systems, like the thing that you saw like before I started when there was magic. I'll show you later, maybe. Okay, so what do we need in order to do low-rank matrix approximation? I'm not going to get too into the details of how do you multiply things and compute matrix stuff, but the basic idea is that we want to develop some kind of a set of ratings. So for example, we might have users and cats, because, cats. And so we want to list out, we have a unique ID for the cat, and we have a unique ID for the users, just some way to identify them. Give them a number, whatever. It just has to be unique. Kind of go through and say, this is the first one, I'll call it 1. This is the second one, that's fine, doesn't matter. And then you give it some kind of a rating. And the rating, again, has to be some kind of, well, the other things don't have to be numeric, but have to be unique. The rating for this will just make it numeric. Numeric is easier to work with. And characters can be turned into numbers too, so really pretty much anything can be turned into a number, even you. Whatever. So we're going to assemble the ratings into a matrix. And so for like this, we're going to have Alex, Kelly, and Sam, and they're going to be the rows of a matrix. I always mix up rows and columns. I know that columns are vertical and rows are that way, but if I start talking about something as a row and it's a column, doesn't matter, don't worry about it. These things can be reversed. It's fine. So they're cats, and they're going to rate cats. And so we put down their ratings into this matrix. Some kind of magic deals with how this actually happens. Again, don't worry about that. It's stuff, it happens. If you need to do it, you can look it up. Someone will help you. I will help you. Someone else will help you, whatever. So we have these ratings, and you can see that Alex likes some cats. Kelly seems to like a lot of cats. Sam seems to dislike a lot of cats, but like one cat. So the idea is that we're sort of clustering users and ratings into sort of themes, that the users will end up clustering, and their ratings are going to cluster into different groups. And they might not, but usually when we have a bunch of data, the data is going to kind of have some kind of pattern or theme to it. Not always, again, it could just be random junk. But if you want interesting things, you're not really going to get interesting things from random data. So it doesn't matter what you do with it. But if there is some kind of a pattern or clustering or something from it, low rank matrix approximation might help you with this. So we're going to be looking at how these things work together. So there are many different kinds of cats, and cats might arrange themselves into nice little clusters. And you might find that the ratings of cats are arranged into clusters, where Alex tends to like things that are like white cats. Alex likes white cats and gray cats, but doesn't seem to so much like orange cats or Maine Coons. And Sam was the one who disliked everything, except for Maine Coons. For some reason, Sam really loves Maine Coons. And so how can we use this to predict what someone else may like? Maybe you'll say, I like this and I like this. I don't know how I feel about this. Maybe you haven't told me. Maybe you've told me only a little bit. You're not going to tell me everything that you like because we'll be here forever. You'll tell me little bits of I like this, this, and this. And I can say, maybe you'll also like this. That's our goal. So again, we don't really have time to go into massive detail about it, but the general idea of low-rank matrix approximation, actually I do want to go back a couple slides here, is that when you cluster things, you sort of imagine arrows pointing along the cluster. And so you have these kinds of themes of the white cats and the gray cats. And because they end up nicely clustered like they were here, you're going to have these themes of the white cats and the themes of the gray cats, and there are going to be people who only like white cats, and there are going to be people who only like gray cats, and there are going to be people who like a bit of both. And when I meet you, I'm going to ask you for what kinds of things you rate. And when I put you into here, I'm going to say, this person seems to be a combination of a little bit of this, and a little bit of that, and a little bit of that. And the goal of low-rank matrix approximation is to break down the things that you like into these components. that may not be cleanly distributed, but magic happens, there's math, and then we get some kind of a prediction of maybe you like these things. And I don't know, that's what I do. So, that's it. Oh, yeah, thank you. So how does this relate to k-means clustering? They are very similar. So they're both unsupervised learning. You don't really have labels, you just kind of have a bunch of ratings. So you could kind of think about it, but you have this kind of cluster of data, and k-means clustering might be a much better way of approaching this kind of a problem. And so the algorithms that are used are completely different, where k-means kind of starts at a chunk and kind of expands from there, whereas this is using some kind of mathematical magic to separate it into principal components. So low-rank geometric approximation is related to principal components analysis, and that's where you see this broken down into these like component vectors. And so these are called the principal components, whereas k-means clustering is these things seem similar based on some kind of like a distance metric. Yeah. Yeah. What kinds of branches of math go into this kind of stuff, like machine learning? And it's primarily going to be matrix algebra, linear algebra. Those are the main things that end up being used. There's also bits of statistics, and somewhere involved in there can sometimes involve little bits of differential equation with the more wild statistic stuff. Good to meet you. I'm Sarai.
All right, our next speaker is Marie, and I know you're here. There you are. So last I heard, Marie's talk was called Something, Something, Something Play. I don't know if that has changed.
We can also do Apple TV.
Something, something, something play by Marie.
Hi, everyone. So I don't have my notes, but that'll be fine. I'm Marie. I make experimental games, and I want to tell you about how I ended up here. I come from Canada. Hopefully you all know Canada here. Beaver, sorry about Beaver. Marshall McLuhan. What else? We have a strategic maple syrup preserve that was robbed about 5 years ago. It's like $30 billion of maple syrup or something. It's a heist. Yeah, it's very good. So to know about me, I was born in a workers' co-op in a ghost town. My parents only lasted a couple years there, and then they moved to a less ghostly small town nearby. But they were weirdos, and they attracted lots of weirdos. In my early years were lots of weirdos coming in my house and influencing me and making me become who I am. And one that was very memorable was this person I called Pumpkin Doodle, and he lived in his white van in my yard for a while. And he believed that I was an artist for no reason, but every day he would come in and say, "Marie, why aren't you making art?" And one day I snarkily said, "I have no art supplies." And he said, "Marie, you can make art out of anything." And he brought me in the house, and we just tore things apart and started building art out of stuff and breaking it. And this was kind of the beginning of the story for me. This is where I came from. I'm going to skip my teenage years because it's a train wreck. No one needs to hear about it. Just imagine the worst things. Imagine me hitchhiking to another city, going to art school, ending up in the hospital. But it all turned out okay in the end. I came out the other end of things, and I was no longer an artist. I was done with art, and I was into communities. So I founded this nonprofit for experimental music and zines and community. It was about 600 people across Canada. It was called Weird. And this is what our events looked like. But this is what we felt like, this kind of thing. We had a blog called Weird Canada that was music. And we still have this drone day. So it's drone music. Anyone can participate. So if you want to join, you can write down that date. So how did I end up making games? Well, I guess I was just really overworked. I was working every day, all day. I was hustling. I was working for the city. I was working on this weird stuff. And I just started thinking, what is the opposite of this horrible work thing? What is the opposite of this? And I thought, it's play. So I got really into play. Who knows this quote? Okay, it's not Einstein, but that's fine. That's fine. He implied it, and I think we can say it ourselves. I was interested in this kind of play, so not really games exactly, but more of this state. I was interested in games as something that people would design, and play as a state that players would bring, this kind of emotional state of curiosity and openness and growth, and I was interested in the space in between. So I moved to Berlin. I quit everything in my life, and I moved to Berlin because that's what people do when they're miserable. And yeah. And I thought, I don't know how to make games. I don't even know how to play games. How do I figure this out? And I saw this ad for a free knowledge game jam, and I emailed them, and I said, can I volunteer? And they said, sure, why not participate? And I said, I don't know anything. Can I just volunteer? And they said, sure. But I showed up, and they had this name tag for me that said game designer on it. So that's what I am. That was the beginning for me. I decided this is what I am. I found a team, pitched a game, and we made this textiles game. Actually, the code version never happened because the two developers got in a fight about what language to use, and that was when I knew I had to learn how to program. That was the beginning of that. And we won third place. I mean, which was everything to me. Thank you. I got really involved in games communities, so I started doing experience design for this games festival called Amaze. I started working at this really cool school called the School of Machines, Making and Make Believe. And I started making games, and my games were all about the most embarrassing personal questions, like, I feel so deeply existentially lonely, why? Can I make a game about this? And like, can cameras teach me about this? So I made this game. Oh, shoot. So this was, it was a game for two people. It used an infrared camera, and so you share a single playable character between you. It's a game about collaboration and cooperation and togetherness with people. And I thought, this is how I'll get close with people. I'll make them play my games with me. And then I was thinking about how hard it is to be understood, how hard it is to have people understand what I'm feeling, and how hard it is to understand what people are feeling. And so I made this game experience thing called OzCult that use biosignals, so your sweatiness and your pulse and your facial expressions. And it used this cool tool by Rebecca Febrink called Wekinator. That's the machine learning for artists. And it turned it into music. So you could hear how someone was feeling. You would just kind of plug them in, and then it would change the music based on how they felt. And then I was thinking about meat bodies, because there was lots of VR happening, and I was like, what is this? Like, can I really finally escape my meat body, this thing that I felt was holding me back? But I felt like no. So I made this weird VR game where you go in and you're making this weird glitch hand art using leap motion. But then there's this fly that starts annoying you. It's flying around, it's buzzing, you're making your art, it's annoying, so maybe you choose to kill it. You can choose to kill it or not, but if you do kill it, I had a tattoo artist standing by to put it on you forever. Yeah, and then I worked with the Berlin Smell Lab because, of course, in Berlin there's a community of smell artists, and we made a smell game, a choose-your-own-adventure smell game, and I also made, like these for a Russian museum that heard about my smell game. I made them some physical smell games. Finally, so this is what I'm working on now. I'm thinking a lot about trust. Maybe I'm having trust problems. That's private, obviously not too private. And communities, and how people get involved in communities, and how communities become meaningful, and thinking a lot about attention as labor, and my attention as labor. And I'm working on a game that I'm going to play in June with this small city in Canada called Kitchener. It's called Common. I'm learning JavaScript, which is not very fun. But I did C++ for the other games, so I'm not worried. I feel like this is going to be fine. And Solidity, because, again, I mean, these questions for me always come from something personal and emotional, and some technologies that I feel like are getting a bit wild in my culture. And yeah, that's how I ended up here. Didn't know anything about games, and now I make them. And if you want to make games with me, just talk to me after. Thank you. Yes. Do you want to be friends with me, was the question. Yes, I would love to be friends with you. Yay. New friends. Ooh, am I going to present any of my things in GDC? I did not know I was going to be here for GDC, so probably not, but there is some Canadian organization reaching out to me about showing something. Yes, question. Do you know about Sandbox? The question was, do you know about Sandbox? And I tried to play this common game with Sandbox with beans and bowls and string, and it was hilarious. It was really fun. Sandbox is a gathering of games people who play test games. So if you're a game designer, once a month, it's a cool event. It's next Thursday. No, you can find it on Facebook. It's like at a park. Yeah, they don't have a home, so they're in a park right now. It gets a bit cold, but it's still fun. It could be. Yeah, that's a good idea. There's another question? I'm here until the end of April, and then I'm lost. I don't know. I'm going to Berlin to help with the festival, and then Montreal, and then Kitchener for this game, but I have no idea what my future holds. Yeah, I'm totally lost. But I'm here until the end of April, so. Thank you again.
Okay, our next speaker is Claire. Cool. So Claire will be telling us about urban exploration.
Okay. One sec. Here we go. We've got this. All right. I'm here to talk about the fundamentals of urban exploration. For anybody who doesn't know, Urbex is essentially the art of going places you have no business being. There's some subcultural crossover with hackers culture for that reason. Common objects of interest include construction sites, rooftops, subway tunnels, derelict houses, abandoned factories. But it's not so much the type of place you explore that defines it as the difficulty explaining why you want to be there in the first place. So it's worth asking, why do this? Why spend your time exploring places that are both illegal and dangerous to be? Because you could get cut by barbed wire, you could step on broken glass, you could breathe in asbestos, you could fall through rotting floorboards, you can run into the cops, you could run into people who aren't the cops. So what are you even getting from this? Why go to these places? There are two main reasons. The first is a bit grandiose, but comes from an honest place, so please bear with me. Urban environments are artificial. They're made with you in mind, so they, by nature, sort of push a specific kind of interaction. As a matter of course, you tend to relate to your surroundings in such a way that presumes a specific kind of relationship with them. Architecture and infrastructure have interpretations of use that are built into them, so your room for interpretation is fairly limited. So for example, you could technically use a window as a door, but that might lead to somebody, calling the cops and reporting a B&E, and that's no good. So a lot of Urbex is built around finding artificial settings that are, for whatever reason, not deemed fit for human consumption, because in these spaces, you get to sort of define the rules. The general trend is to try to treat these spaces as invisible, but when you don't, you find, whoop, that's not it. But when you don't, you find places that reveal something more. So anyway, the second reason is that it's not really an issue to explore storm drains or rooftops if you know what you're doing. Planning and safety just make this work. So here's a basic 3-step guide to safe Urbex. Step 1, do your homework. The research you'll have to do for various places varies widely. Just finding a place sometimes involves a lot of time at a local historical society, but sometimes you luck out with the internet. Sometimes you just drive around and you find neat places. So above ground, especially, it's sometimes just a matter of seeing a place and going, but whatever info you can get ahead of time is good. So the purpose of the research that you do is usually to shape your strategy. You ask yourself questions like, for example, if you're entering a storm drain system, does it intersect with the sewage system? Because Los Angeles, for example, keeps it separate, but San Francisco doesn't. So you might go through a storm drain and end up dying of swamp gas. It's no good. So you can bring a gas mask or you can stay out altogether. So anyway, based on the answers to these questions, you then prep your kit. You always bring a headlamp, gloves, and good shoes. If it's an abandoned house or a San Francisco storm drain, you want to bring some kind of mask because swamp gas kills now and asbestos kills later, and both of them are horrible ways to go. So rope is really useful, especially if you have a basic knowledge of knots. You don't know when it will be useful, but on the off chance that it will, you just want to have it there, ready. A friend of mine goes a bit further and says that you should also have a grappling hook in case there's anything very high that you need to traverse. But it's not excessive; it's just a matter of taste. Let's see, some items seem like great ideas until you run into the police. This includes, bolt cutters. It's kind of hard to look innocuous with them. So that's also a matter of personal taste. Just, use sound judgment, whatever that means to you. Yeah. So anyway, once you have all of your gear in place, you go. While you're there, you should probably remain alert because who even knows what is underneath all of that wreckage? There could be more rotting floorboards. There could be anything really. You have no idea. Yeah. Also, brief note: if you're going to do this, it's best to try to keep the information private. I know it seems like gatekeeping, but the best way to lose a place quickly is to post it online. Somebody in Los Angeles posted this really nice posted a easy access entrance to this system of underground tunnels in Los Angeles that was right behind the Hall of Records. You just took an elevator straight down, and there it was. It was so wonderful until they posted about it on Alice Obscura, at which point some woman started leading tours down there, and it's no longer accessible. You go down there now, and there's a security guard waiting for you to escort you out. So be careful with who you share the information with. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Have fun. Yep. I'm considering it. These are all my pictures. Yep. Sorry, what could you? No, I didn't hear it. Yeah, sorry, what? Yeah. Did I find anything cool that I wanted to take home with me on any of my explorations? Let's see. Okay, the first thing that comes to mind is stuff that I was able to take home with me. We were there was this abandoned factory complex in Western Massachusetts, which had blueprints of said factory just kind of lying inside of it, rotting. So we took the blueprints and we donated it to the local historical society. Yeah. Anyone else? Cool. Oh, sorry. Have I been to Chernobyl? It's on the to-do list. Maybe. Okay, so if I'm living in a city or urban environment, what tips me off that this is a place that I should go? So the easiest tip off from sight is whether a place looks derelict or whether it looks like people hang around there who don't care for it. Let's see. So tagging is common. Let's see. You can. Okay, one of the pictures that I showed on there was of a rainwater system sort of map. You can find those pretty easily online. So yeah, one of the things that can tip you off is just knowing where the entrances to various infrastructural systems are. Yeah. No. I don't go alone. Yeah, the question was, do you go alone? Generally, it's not a great idea to go alone because you don't know if somebody else is going to be there. So it's generally good protocol to go with somebody else. Yeah. Okay, what is the craziest person I've met? Okay, honestly, I haven't really met anybody who's been particularly crazy. Usually, it's just photographers. I've heard stories from people who have who have explored the tunnels underneath San Francisco and found themselves suddenly standing in somebody's living room. Yeah. So there are people. Yeah. So there are people who sometimes live down there. And the correct response is according to him, basically to just understand that you are in somebody's home and excuse yourself out as quickly as possible. Because, yeah. Let's see. So the question is, let's see. When you're in these places, how do you keep your camera safe? The answer is you have a strap around your neck at all times, and also don't walk while you're holding it. This is really important. Like if you walk backwards, you know, usually you're in a place that it has kind of strange terrain, so you don't want to like step on broken glass or trip over something. That happens more often than you'd think. Yeah. Anyone else? Yep. Do I do any work with? Do I do any work with housing justice or squatting groups? I do not personally work with any housing justice or squatting groups, but I feel kinship with them. Yes. Yeah. Anything else? Hi. Have I ever run into law enforcement? If so, what did I do? I have. The typical answer, which is helped once again by not bringing bolt cutters, is to play yourself off as an innocuous tourist. Just say, oh well, this seemed really interesting. I didn't know that there was a problem with me being here. I will excuse myself immediately. Usually, if you have a photo, if you have a camera with you, this helps a lot. Anyone else? Have I explored any spots in Oakland? That's on the to-do list. Not yet. All right. Is that it? Hi. Yeah. Is there a map? Is there a map for finding underground tunnels? There. So I mean, if you're talking about the storm drain system, then that map is publicly available. I actually showed it on screen. You just type in SF storm drain system, and there it is. When it comes to other underground tunnels, there is no official map. No. All right. Yeah. Let's. Yeah, you can. Yeah, you can talk to me afterwards if you want. Yeah. Thanks.
Okay, so let's take a 5-minute break. We have plenty more people, but let's give you some time to breathe, get, cheese, crackers, wine, whatever you want. So be back here in 5 minutes, or just don't go anywhere. All right, who's ready for more talks? Hey, you in the back by the noise table, do you want some more talks? So your stuff is up there? Okay, so up next, ooh, let's wait for the fire trucks to go away. All right, so up next is Lily. She will be telling us about golden threads.
Hi, everyone. So I'm going to be talking about Golden Threads remote healing app. It's an app that I'm developing to connect people to remote healers who they may never have met. Just like normal, it connects normal people to really amazing healers from all over the world. Okay. The background and like the 10-second summary of like last year's talk was I was an options trader. I had a hallucinogenic like trip. I like started on this like huge 8-year path of like healing and like meditation. And when I ended up becoming really good at finding 4-leaf clovers in the meantime while doing that. That's the summary of that. And also, over the last 8 years, I've been exploring a lot of different energy and meditative healing methods from all over the world. And so like, these are some of the healers that I've met with, I've studied with, I've gotten healings with, who are super good. I've also gotten a lot of bad healings, like just like kind of weak healings. And I came from a technical background. So like when I came into, when I found out about energy healing, when I found out about like healing by like laying of hands or by like touch, I was very skeptical. And for good reason, because I would say maybe like 97% of like people who are healers are not as good as like the top like 3%. Are like 20 times worse than the top like 3%. And the way I found those like top 3%, like to me, I would go to like the best healer that I knew at the time, and then branch out from there, like find their best healers. And, like just one by one, I've collected like, there's probably like 50, like personally 50 really outstanding life-changing healers that I've met that are, have like created tons of, just like tons of change, like have like cured things like cancer or like bipolar or, so there's so much that's possible with different healing techniques. And I just feel like people should not get like a Reiki treatment from someone who's been doing it like a day and then like write off the whole industry of alternative methods and decide like if you have cancer, don't try that. There's like nothing except for chemo to do. So that's kind of like where I am coming from. I talk about this a little bit here. Why is it good to find, or why is it so hard to find a good healer? I've known a lot of people who get diagnosed with cancer or like, find a tumor or have like some kind of like suddenly get diagnosed with like a chronic disease, and like doctors, don't know what to do. And there's a lot of like angst between like people being, people being like, oh, well, why don't you like use Reiki? Like my mom's like sister used Reiki, and then that she like totally, the tumor disappeared. There's a lot of like stories like that. And then there's a lot of people who like go try something like Reiki with who knows which healer, and they waste like 6 months, maybe a year, maybe they just, it's like too late to operate on the cancer at that point, and it doesn't work. When really, what I found when I was studying I guess the word is like a horizontal study of like lots of different healing methods, really probably the best choice would have been to start first with like a different kind of healing method that like gets out the big chunks of things that need healing, like the bigger blocks, before using something like Reiki, which is more of a relaxation, general healing technique. So I feel like in the healing community, a lot of that doesn't get talked about in like a logical way. Like people are kind of like, in the healing community in general, people kind of just generally believe that like you'll come to the healing methods that work for you, but a lot of people don't. You know, a lot of people end up never finding out because the information isn't connected to there. And a lot of healers also don't like to compare and contrast different healing methods. So I thought someone should be doing this, and someone should be someone should be able to help the normal people distinguish between different healers. And I just summarized on this slide, basically, yeah, like don't go get a Reiki treatment from like your sister and then decide that there's no hope, it's all pharmaceutical drugs from here on out. Don't do that. So this app is for connecting people to normal people to highly vetted, hard to find world-class healers. And there's healers from, like right now on my list, there's healers from Siberia, Russia, Mexico. There's like several really amazing healers. And the reason why like they're able to, I think the reason why they're so, the quality of the healings is so good is because they're literally sitting around all day. They're not marketing themselves. They're sitting around all day, like meditating, and or like with healing clients all day. So it's like literally all they do. I think in America, it's really hard to find people like that because there's no city or like place where you can live and just do things, just live as like a healer of like invisible, invisible forces. So I think it's like really important to be able to like tap into these other cultures where they have been doing all this stuff for like years and years. So I'm taking email signups for the app launch at remote-healing.launchrock.com. And yeah, so if you have any questions, let me know. Yeah? Uh-huh. It's more like an OkCupid. It's more like it's more like an OkCupid to match you to like the healer of your who would fit you right now, or like several healers will fit you right now. But like, yeah, it'll like match you based off of questions. Yeah, go ahead. Uh-huh. No, it's a remote healing app. No. Sorry. Oh my God. I'm so sorry. A remote healing means like I order healings from my healer in Mexico, and he's doing the thing in Mexico, and then I'm getting the healing here. And I'll tell you what it feels like. It feels like you've taken like a drug, like a sleeping drug or something. Like you feel them start doing the thing, and then for me, I just suddenly feel like a pool of calm. Like as if I'd taken some kind of like really calming pharmaceutical, almost. But it's just, it's like that strong, probably. I don't know. It's different for everyone, but and then afterwards, it's like a ton of stuff unfolds after that. So that's what it's like. Okay.
Thank you, Lily.
Okay, cool.
Our next speaker is Sam. Sam will be talking about making mechanical monsters.
All right, thank you. So you guys said I could talk about anything. I decided I want to talk about monsters. I work at Shibuya Space and Science Center, and I work leading a program called Project Create, which is a hands-on learning space and kind of like a tinkering area that people can go and explore, and it's awesome, and it's fun, and you should go visit, and it's great. We're also working on developing this summer camp, and I've never really developed a summer camp before. And our idea was, we have all these kind of like a bunch of individual concepts that we want kids to interact and play with, and how are we going to put those all together into something that's fun and engaging and that people will want to really come and make cool things without making the same cool thing? Concepts like, circuitry, making things move, sewing, other types of fun, creative things. So we decided that the best way is going to be monsters. And so my talk is pretty much going through the evolution of kind of discovering if this is a cool idea or not. So I had some cool, sweet, slow-mo vids, but that didn't really work out because I didn't know how to bring my own laptop. So you're going to get some interpretive dances and some maybe having to stand up and see for yourself how this works. So this is my version 1, the bare bones monster that we created, I created. And so we had these little tiny kind of gearbox motors. And the idea is that we are creating the summer camp that is grades 1 through grade 6. So we have pretty limited amount of can't really do a lot of soldering. In a week-long camp, we're probably not going to do any programming. So I got really into this kind of making stuff from trash, but really fun and silly. So the idea is that there's these kind of side windy gear parts of the motor that go slower than the top part that goes really fast. So this, technical terms. So this robot head spins really fast, and then it has these little legs that kind of turn. So I'm going to do this horrible interpretive dance of what this robot looks like. But just imagine that I have a million legs instead of just the 2 legs that I have. So it's right, really fun. Okay. So then, after making one robot, all you can do is think about, or robot, monster, all you can do is think about the next monster that you want to make. So version 2, which I have the next 2 versions with me, is Broomhilda, which I have no idea why I came up with that name. So Broomhilda is this monster here. It is connected with alligator clips, so there's no soldering, as you can see. Have you guys seen the boxed water is better? That's what it's made out of. It's literally made of trash underneath. So these are plastic golf balls and googly eyes, cause duh. And then this air dry clay, and I wanted to have this. So this is the same motor that I used for the last monster, and I wanted to have this kind of fraying out straw situation, but it didn't really go very fast when I did that. So as soon as the straw arbitrarily fell off, it started moving a lot faster. So hopefully you guys can kind of see this. But it sounds cool either way. So it kind of oddly slithers towards you. And this survived a bunch of kids playing with it at one of our events, so I'm pretty proud of that. So then, after doing this monster, I was thinking, how do we teach kids about motion and adding personality to our monsters? And I'd kind of done the moving forward with these types of motors, and I wanted to try to do something else. So I have the eyes used to light up, but then that broke, because that's what happens when you make things out of garbage. But it had RGB lights, and they would turn color, and it was really fun. So this is kind of like the bare bones of the next monster I'm about to bring out, but it's, as you can see, it has like pipe cleaner is the basis of it, of the mouth, and then it has kind of copper wire attached to like a crank, and then a straw to kind of keep it rigid. So that is, as I was getting excited about making this monster, I forgot to take photos, so this is kind of all I got. So I'm gonna bring this monster out, if that's cool with you. So this is the Yip Yip monster, and with one of my colleagues, we had added a switch to his snake monster, where when you'd press it, the snake's eyes would light up, and it had a little buzzer on its tail. And so I was like, oh, I wanted to originally create a friendship monster where you like hold hands with it and it lights up, but I think this one's a little bit better. So, oh no, hold on, don't worry, I'm gonna show you guys photos and try to figure out what the issue here is. That's good. So the idea is that when you hold its hand, essentially, when it's connected and everything, the I don't know what the issue is. The mouth goes up and down like this. I'll just do the motion for you. The mouth goes up and down. Stuck in that bag. The mouth goes up and down, and it kind of like makes the like, yip, 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 yip. You guys remember that Martian at all? That's essentially what this is a yip yip monster that I created, and trying to like think differently about motion, and I'm gonna try to get this to work. But I think that's pretty much all I got here. I had another video, but is it the end? Who knows? I don't know. I'm probably gonna make more monsters, because I just like this idea of teaching kids how to not only use these like basic mechanicals where you're not programming, but like bringing something to life and having a story behind it. So our idea is that like, you know, you create a whole character around the monster that you create, and you iterate throughout the week. So you make, because like that was like from the first monster to this monster, it was like, oh, okay, I'm really into like doing the first one, but now I want to make the next one, and I want to think differently and deeply about how it goes. And so that is kind of the concept that we're trying to go with this summer camp, and I'm going to try to get this to work, because it was doing really good until, of course, I brought it out in front of you guys. So the end, or question mark, is it? And if you guys want to see the, I'm going to get this monster naked, if that's appropriate. It's pretty much just cardboard and, yeah, it's cardboard and, you know, cover your eyes if it's not appropriate for you. Popsicle sticks I'm a big fan of. Anything that I can hot glue together, but that's pretty much all it is. And then the switch, which is not working, of course, because that's my life, kind of makes it turn like this, the crankshaft, and whatever, it's awesome. Just believe me. The end. Does anyone have any questions? No? If you want to talk about a monster story you may have, I'm also open to that.
I have a material that I think I want to give you to help you make some monsters. This is armature wire. It's this cool wire that you can kind of just bend it however you want, and it'll kind of stay bent.
That's awesome.
More stuff. And I have a lot of it, and you can take it and turn it into monsters if you're kind of.
Oh man, yes, thank you. Cool. Yes. I encourage everyone to make monsters. I have I don't know if I have what supplies I have in here. I mean, it's mainly like puffballs and the world's worst fabric that got all over our house, which is now all over your table, so sorry, not sorry. But yes, please make monsters. It's really fun. It is surprisingly addictive. Yes, no. So again, I work at Chabot Space and Science Center, so I have like some collateral. We are like in the process of, in the program that I manage, in the process of making a blog to kind of like show off all the tight shit that we do, but we're not quite there yet. And I guess I'd say kind of go to our website, but don't really go to our website. It's garbage. Chabot Space and Science Center, which is in the Oakland Hills, if you guys have never been there. I can. It is spelled like Chabot, Chabot. And we do free telescope viewings on Fridays and Saturday nights. Promo. It's good. It's fun. You should go. Any other? Yes. Kind of, because they were slow-mo videos and they were pretty good. I can never do the justice of this. Well, especially now that my robot didn't work. I had to slow-mo of this one, and the jowls moved all slowly. I know, I'm sad. Any other questions? Sweet, thank you. The end.
Our next speaker is Ratikate. She will be telling us about how to get 150,000 users overnight.
One moment, please. Wait, how do I go to full screen? Wait, where? Oh, listen, I got it. Okay. Oh my God, the thing. Okay, so I work for a company called Synapse, and if you went to the last 5 minutes of Friday, I think my partner Dan was here talking about that. But it's great, and there was a long time where before I worked for Synapse, I just listened to Dan complain about things, and that was exhausting. So after that happened, I just said, why can't I just work for you? And he said, yes, please quit your job. So I did. So I'm going to tell you how to get 150,000 zillion users overnight and hopefully crash your site and then ruin your life. So we started with like 10K users, which is great. That's a really good place to start. However, now we're at 200 zillion, 10, whatever. But I think it's more than that because I haven't checked like in the last 5 hours, so that's probably not the best number. Step 1, please don't be an asshole. And I mean this seriously. Like it's very easy when you're creating community and trying to get a lot of users to snap at idiots because, oh my God, there's so many smart people in the world. But it's hard. There are moments when you're tired and you haven't slept and you're just like, I want to strangle you. But you can't do that to people because they're on the internet. But seriously, find your tribe. And when you're trying to create a community and when you're trying to build users overnight, you have to figure out what your target market is. And I know that sounds annoying, as if I'm coming from a marketing perspective, but let's be real. There is a small amount of people, and maybe large, who are very interested in you, but at the beginning, it will be small. Insulate yourself. So what I mean by that is when you're starting your community and when you're trying to get a lot of users and a lot of momentum, it can sometimes feel like you're the only person in the world who cares, but you're not. There's so many people that care about what you're doing because there's an infinite amount of people in the world. So insulate yourself with those people and get them on your side. This is what every political person does. This is literally how Trump won the election, besides the Russian bots that we all know happened. Like, I know everyone knows that. But to be quite frank, you need to insulate yourself with those people who are on your side. And you need to talk to them, and you need to reward them. So what does that look like for you? It could be anything. For us, we're running a ICO right now. So I talk to those people every day. And this is a group of like 50 people who really love Synapse, which is incredible, because I'm like, oh my God, how can this many people be like fanatics? Like, this is so cool, but also like, I feel alone in the world. So I reward them almost every day with Synapse tokens. I send them letters in the mail. I send them gifts. I interact with them. You know, human interaction is so valuable. Much like I think another speaker was talking about how valuable your time is. Like, your interaction and your FaceTime is huge. And if you can give someone that, if you can call them on the phone and be like, hey, you're fucking cool as fuck, like, be my friend, that would mean so much to me, but it also means so much to your audience. So don't take it for granted. Maintain quality control. So this is my favorite part. So recently, there was a moment where I was talking to my partner, and I was like, you know what? I'm sick of this SHIT. Like, how can we like navigate around this? And he taught me how to ban people. It is so validating to ban the people who are not even real people. They're bots. They're not real people. Just ban them. Just fucking ban them. Like, fuck those people. They're so rude, and they don't even have like social skills because they're robots. It's disgusting. But also, speaking on the subject of trolls, there are going to be so many trolls. There's so many armchair, like, speculative people talking about, like, Synapse, and that's great. And you can win them over. Like, just be nice to them. Just take them aside and be like, you know what? Here's exhibit A, B, C, and D, and I'm going to show you all these things that we have made because we're legitimate. Now, if you're not legitimate, which goes back to step one, you're an asshole. So I can't help you with that, but if you have a real product and you're legitimate, you just have to educate people. And it seems like a chore sometimes, but the people who are so mean and such trolls are also going to be the loudest people. And if you can convert them and you can speak to them on their level and not just brush them off or ban them, don't just ban them. That is like, I have learned the hard way, just banning the trolls is not going to stop them. Speak to them on their level, and you'll get them on your side. And then they'll be like, oh, okay, so you're real. And then, voila. Then they talk to all their followers that hate everything else, and it's great. Step 5, never get comfortable. The second you think that you have cracked the code, you have not cracked the code, my friend. There is another level of madness waiting for you, and you're like so ready to jump off a building that it's not even funny. So don't get comfortable and say like, oh, I have so many users, this is great. No, dude, like, infinite, it never stops. You have to keep motivating yourself. You have to keep educating people. You have to keep maintaining the quality control, and at this point, once you've created a community of users, and if people who, like, whatever your thing is, like if it's signups, like whatever it is, giving you money, like whatever it could be, you have to keep the fire going. And I bring up fire because I think a lot about fire. So the first interesting thing to humans was probably like genitalia and fire, because now they could see things at night. And it's this big, beautiful glow that people wanna just like, oh my God. If you can keep that going, then you have something. But you just got to strategize a little bit. And if you are able to follow these 5 easy steps, you too can be an overnight sensation. We started with 10,000 users, and pretty much overnight we had 150,000 signups, which was great, but it also meant that our site went down, which was also great, because we were on a phone call with someone who was very important, and they made the comment, "Oh, you guys know your site is down right now?" And my partner Dan is like, "Yeah, I know that. We're very popular. Thank you." You know, anybody can do this stuff. It's not like you have to have gone to an Ivy League school or be a late hacker. I wouldn't call myself a genius, and I wouldn't call myself like I'm gonna put myself on a podium. But if you follow these 5 easy steps, I promise you, it can happen for you too. Does anyone have questions? I'm gonna wrap this up. No, you don't have to add the AI. But I don't know, where did that question come from? Oh, hi. Someone asked what Synapse does. So a really easy use case is to say that you brush off data like dandruff every day, and you don't get any money for it. You're basically like killed for no reason, and you could get rewarded for that data. So we buy and sell data on a network. Of course, there's more to it, and I can connect you with that information, but, yeah. Anybody else?
What if your market is like really saturated, and how do you get people?
I'm going to stop you there. You said, what if your market is really saturated? We're running an ICO right now, and I don't know if you know that, but ICOs are everywhere. How do you differentiate yourself? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, because I make video games, and then it's kind of hard because there's so many out there, right? So
No, it's not hard. You're a human, you're an individual, you are a person. When I first started this, I tried to be like, oh my God, I'm professional. The second I added my personality to every interaction, people responded to it very, very well. Of course, you have to somewhat play to your audience, but also you have to incentivize people, and you have to value people, and you have to treat them like they're humans, because they are humans. And so I think showing your personality and being 100% human is important, being transparent about everything, and being like, you know what, guys, I've had a long day. I'm in Telegram chat, and I'm tired. And people are like, oh, that's fine, chill out. The second you show your skin, it's cool. That would be my advice to you. I think there's one more question. So someone's asking about trolls and how you deal with them, but also what happened. Yeah, every day there is a new troll. It's actually incredible to me that people spend their time being so mean. Because I get questions like, oh, you want to go on a date? There's that stuff. But then there's also people who are like, this is bullshit. This isn't even real. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to just put on my professional face and talk to them. And it's the same thing. You be a human. You be like, hey, the first thing you ask them is, what do you feel like is not real? What is it that you're really upset about? And then you go from there. Because, but it's true. It's what is your biggest issue with, for instance, Synapse? And usually they're like, well, I'm looking at your team. And I'm like, okay, well, let me start you with A, B, C, and D. And then you just give them the information to succeed. Because more often than not, this is a perfect use case. I just found this person, and I'm not going to say their website, but they review ICOs. And obviously, ICOs are great. It's the first time in history where anyone is able to fund their idea that matters. And people who care will give them money, and that's incredible. However, there are a lot of people trying to make money off of the scene. And so there's like ICO reviewers, there's like all this BS. And one of these people reviewed us, and I looked at it and I was like, oh man, all this information is wrong. This is so embarrassing. Like, how did they even get this information? Where did this come from? They're just like a troll, like trying to hate to get like more votes or whatever, which is fine. So I contacted them, and I actually called them because I found their number online because I am a crazy ex-girlfriend and I can do that. And I found their information, I called them and I was like, hey dude, I don't know if you know this, but all your info is wrong. Can I help you? Like, can I give you the correct information? And they're like, yeah, sure, we're all ears. And sure enough, the whole thing has changed. It's like if you actually, I'm gonna say if you address anyone as a human, that's all you have to do in life. Like, there's your way to succeed. Treat people like humans, not how you would want to be treated, but how humans would want to be treated, because you may want to be treated differently than they would want to be treated. And I think that's like the most important takeaway from learning how to build a community. But that's all I have. If anyone else has questions, you can ask me afterwards. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Jade, and she will be telling us about her work in progress doorbell project.
Hi. Cool. Oh, thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm Jade. I work at Cloudflare. Prior to that, I started my own startup called Sandstorm. But I'm not going to talk about any of those work things. Today, I'm here to talk about my hobby side project, which is actually my first Arduino project, which is a doorbell. So let's see if I can get this on the screen. Ah, cool. Oh, by the way, I also experiment with food, which is why my blog is called Bites to Bites. So start with the demo. Oh. Well, if we had sound, you would hear a ding dong, and then and then you would see. And then it sent a text message to my phone, which then alerted my Pebble. So the way this is actually, the reason why I decided to make a doorbell was because we had lived for 7 years without a working doorbell. And the reason for this is we had a well-documented workaround. Doorbell does not work, please knock. And part of the reason is, in our household, generally we don't entrust a lot of third-party cloud services, and we like to host everything on-prem. But my husband had implemented our security system from scratch, and after a while he kind of like ran out of free time, and we were working on our startup together, and so for many years we just didn't have a doorbell. And once we started working at Cloudflare, I suddenly found that now that I wasn't working crazy hours, I had time to work on a side project. So I decided to take up this cause. The way that it's put together is actually pretty straightforward. It's the doorbell is hooked up to an Arduino. The doorbell itself is a really simple switch. It's hooked up to an Arduino, which that's the kit, and there are these wires that run through conduits in the household, but the doorbell itself is basically a switch. And I actually had to take the switch apart at one point, but the fact of the matter is, putting the doorbell together, in concept, getting all the pieces to work, there's a Node.js app that runs in our server closet. Those things aren't the hard part. The really interesting things were the lessons learned along the way, which is, why is this doorbell not working? Apparently, So my first hypothesis was maybe what is going on with the light bulb inside the doorbell, and what happens when light bulbs burn out. As far as I could tell, usually when light bulbs burn out, they become an insulator. But actually, in this case, it was the equivalent of a wire, which was why it seemed like the doorbell wasn't working. But the good news is you yank it out and it starts working again. Other things were, let's see. Originally, we used Chromecast as the way to play the ding dong sound. This has some interesting side effects. It seemed like the easiest way to go since we already have a Chromecast set up to our speaker system. But some of the drawbacks include the first way that that I had implemented it was firing up using a YouTube app to play a video that had a ding dong sound, and this had an insane amount of delay. I kid you not. It was like you press the doorbell and you wait like 12 seconds, and then for a moment you're like, should I restart the server? And then you hear ding dong. So turns out there is a better way to do this, which is with the Chromecast you just send it the very short MP3 file. Of course, this still has the problem where you get like a 5-second delay, and in a practical scenario with a person at the door with a doorbell, a 5-second delay is still kind of not a great user experience. So, several decisions. Eventually, we just decided to ditch Chromecast, and instead, I bought an amp. Now, one of the drawbacks to not living in a place like Shenzhen is like I had to like wait 2 weeks for shipping for this, and by then it was no longer the holidays and no longer my staycation. But what I was able to do was hook up different speakers in the house to this amp, which is then connected via USB. So here's actually how it looks. This is our server closet at home. This is a box of mints with an Arduino in it, and it's sitting up there, and it's connected via USB to the server, which is at the top of the rack, and there's another USB which connects to the amp, which plays the sound, basically like you're playing via speakers, and this approximately works. There's another really hilarious problem that we had, which is the button debounce problem. So you assuming that you press the doorbell button exactly once and very firmly, it sends exactly one text message. However, this could have some interesting side effects if you were a little bit fluttery on your way down. So it could send you anywhere between 1 and 20 text messages. Now, there are a number of places where one could fix this problem. For instance, I could tell Twilio to not send so many text messages and rate limit that. Another choice is to do the debounce at the Arduino side, and another place to do the debounce is on the node server. In the end, I decided to do the debounce on the Arduino end because it seemed like the closer you are to the signal, the fewer adverse side effects you would get later on. So there actually is a proper way to debounce, which isn't what I did if you look at my repo, because I got lazy and I just wanted this thing to work. Basically, and I figured that was a really reasonable thing to do because I didn't have a whole bunch of other sensors attached to the Arduino. So that was my quick and dirty debounce. I basically, as soon as there is a button press, it waits about half a second before it literally does anything else. Like, it gets a button press and it sends like this piece of JSON, and then it like waits half a second before it's like literally able to do anything else. So basically, it's working now. And for all intents and purposes, it you know, it does this great thing where for one button press, it gives me exactly one ding dong and one text message, and no extra text messages. And there is no noticeable delay at present. I have been one bug away from making it permanently in production for a while now. And currently I'm wrestling with one last issue. Hopefully this is the last one, which is as this is deployed, there are, you know, we left it running and we're watching a movie and out of nowhere, ding dong. So there are these like phantom ding dongs, like every several hours, and I hope to report back at a future lightning talk what the status of this doorbell is. Hopefully, I will have fixed that issue before I get distracted by a different project. But overall reflections, I would have happily bought a productized solution if only these things were possible. One, like I did not want something that required me to install their stupid proprietary app that, you know, neither I nor anyone in my family can security review. I did not want to buy into a walled garden, so like something that was compatible with only their own brand of everything. This is kind of like not how we do things, and also things that phoned home to their own server. So on the surface, that seems like it might not be a huge deal, but consider the following. One, what happens if that company goes out of business? Does my doorbell stop working? And two, what happens if the internet is down? Like, what happens in a rainstorm and like a tree fell on a telephone cable and Comcast hasn't gotten around to it yet? Does my doorbell stop working? And lastly, like in our family, we do have this general preference to have our data live inside our own home, which is like partly why we have servers running in our closet. But you know, in the case of a lot of devices, some of them are kind of actually quite insecure, and we do generally prefer on-prem for our hosting needs. So, in conclusion, I learned a lot about my own strengths and weaknesses, including not breaking. So my strengths include I'm pretty good at soldering. I did a bunch of soldering projects in grad school. Still good at it. Weaknesses, not breaking plastic bits that clip into other things. I actually did manage to break a few of the plastic bits of the doorbell, which was kind of unfortunate. And I did break a few of the plastic bits on the amp, but I did manage to fix those. Strengths, it's a lot of fun to break down larger problems into smaller problems and then solve them. Weaknesses, estimating how long things take, because I'm always one bug away from completion. So what's next? Hopefully I will fix this last bug and tell you all about it. So, thank you. Questions? Yes, that is an excellent point. Traditional doorbells are made of pieces of metals and there are no delays. They do have one downside, which is that they can't really text message you. Of course, one possibility is, having a microphone, listen to a doorbell, and then text message me. But the other thing is the speakers that it's hooked up to are in several different rooms of the house. So no matter which room I'm in, I'm likely to hear it. But I actually did consider something with a microphone as an option. And I got this piece of feedback, which is, are you trying to construct the most Rube Goldberg doorbell ever? I'm like, that wasn't the goal, but it might be. Any other questions? All right, thank you.
Our final speaker for the night is Cere. who will be talking about statements of identity in the English language.
Hey. Okay, this mic is super like whoa, 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 but I didn't bring any slides or anything, and cause I wanted to try out not bringing slides. Okay, so I've been spending a lot of time thinking about warpism or warpism, the idea that language, whether or not language shapes thought to any degree. It's called, I think it's called Sapir-Whorf. Yeah, and so. The movement on that, or the opinion on that, has kind of swung around a little bit, and it seems like right now the belief is that, yeah, to some degree it constrains and promotes certain kinds of thoughts. For example, languages that are tonal, people who speak those tonal languages tend to have a better perception of pitch because they have to have a good sense of pitch just to speak the language. Similarly, in Aboriginal languages, the Aborigines, their sense of direction is superb, and it's because the description of every object actually has to have an absolute position. So just to communicate with somebody about something, you have to be able to say, like, this is north, northwest, 5 steps of the blah, blah, blah. Like, it's just ridiculous. And so, anyway, I started to think about whether or not language shapes thought around identity. And specifically, because we live in such a kind of a polarized society, and the way we declare ourselves, like, I am a woman, I am white, you kind of have to pick sides. You can't, there's no construction in our language where you can say, I'm a womanish, or like, you can't, there's no sense of like partial embodiment. You have to be this or that. And so I was wondering, like, in language, in any language, is there a structure such that there's like a partial construction? I mean, you can always say, I'm mixed race, I'm part white, I'm part black, but that's a lot of language overhead, and people just basically don't do it in the name of efficiency or trying to communicate an idea that's not related to, declaring their race. So, and the answer so far is not encouraging, but I mean, I've only really mostly looked at the Western languages, and I'm just surveying with people. So if you're a fluent speaker of, a language that's obscure, or not even obscure, just not the usual Western languages, I'd really love to hear from you, or what your thoughts are on this in general. And the reason why this came up for me was my niece, who I'm super close to, is part Senegalese, and since she lives in the U.S., since she has, dominant African features, she's black. And that, I can't really articulate exactly the ways that makes more of a separation than either of us really want within even our own family, but it does. And it's just a construction of language. I mean, to what extent does our English structure make us actually feel more separate than we even are? I mean, in terms of how we even talk about ourselves. And so that's kind of ongoing question. And so let's see, where do I want to go with this? Okay, so the question I asked on Facebook to a bunch of friends was like, is there a language where you say, I have a white, I have a black? And somebody said that in French, there are some cases where you can say I have a, but I don't know if in gender or race, if it's that way. In Russian, I guess there's no constructive clause. You just say I woman. So I started looking at the Lakota language, and that looks complicated, but it also looks really interesting for that reason. I mean, it seems like, you could just say, like, I'm a womanish, like, it wouldn't take much at the end of the sentence to give some nuance to the language. And I can understand why, so another person I surveyed was my Senegalese brother-in-law, and he said, yeah, no, you have to pick a side. And so generally, and that's Olaf, I mean, and generally I could see why that would happen in languages, because, when languages evolved, they were mostly in a mono-racial or a tight-knit community where you didn't have constant identity crises like you do now. But so I could see why that might often be the case, but I'm just like, oh, please, 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 is there a language that would allow us to not have to pick these sides, especially when we're talking online? And so it got me thinking about other nuances in English, which, okay, so for example, and I still haven't there's no conclusion to this. I mean, so just tell me if you have some thoughts on this. But for example, when you're talking about gender, I say, I am a woman, I am a man, and there's an in there. And when you add the it kind of adds a little bit of distance. Like you can say, I am a fireman, I am a this, I am a that. And it's like I'm a member of a group, but it's not really an embodied kind of declaration, as opposed to saying I am white, where there's no And then I was thinking about it, I'm like, well, okay, so for gender, I am a woman, I am a man, you use the but then for now, in our newer construction with trans, you say I am trans, there's no So I don't know, it just got me thinking about why in that case we put an there, and there's a little bit more of a implied separation, versus in race, we're like, I am white, or whatever. So yeah, let's see. I don't know where else I want to go with this. I mean, that's just kind of thoughts I've been having, and I want to figure out where to go with it, and have people who speak fluently other languages tell me what they think. Tell me what I haven't thought of. So that's it. Questions? Yeah, okay, so I was just talking to Anthony about that, actually. He pointed that out. I'm considering it. It's just a lot for my brain. I mean, because I'm more curious about, it's an anthropological question as much as anything else, too. And I mean, in all the examples I've heard about the discussion about wharfism, they've all been examples of our relationship with our environment. So our relationship with space, I've heard one example, but I can't remember what it was. Our example with time, or our relationship with time related to Russian. But it's all environmental, and I thought, God, to what extent is wharfism related to our relationship to each other in language? So, yeah, so I kind of want to understand it from an anthropological perspective. Because then if you did stumble on a language that was like that, then you'd ask your question well, what's different about that society such that they would construct, and what affect society? Yeah, anybody else? Okay.
All right, thank you all for coming. Let's thank our speakers one last time. And don't forget, if you think this is cool and you want more like this, you should donate to Noisebridge, become a recurring donor if you can. Check out our Patreon. It's patreon.com/Noisebridge. Thank you, everyone.